I was tagged in this post in the 2X chromosome subreddit. She says, asking guys why they want kids. Are these normal answers? She says, I was hanging out with my friend group yesterday, and I asked a few of the guys there why they wanted kids. None of them are parents, and all of them are 23 years old. The reasons they listed were wanting to have a legacy and continue their family. Two, if they don't have kids, their family name dies out, and that's important to them. Three, having kids is the most morally correct thing you can do. Four, people should want to have kids because if we don't, the population would disappear. It struck a chord with me because none of the guys I asked said anything about caring for the kids or liking the idea of raising them. Everything they named would make them, as the parent, look better. I know I had a very small sample size, but is this normal for guys or is this why everyone wants to have kids? Edit. We are in a major city in Canada. All of these guys grew up in the city. And so this is the thing. I do believe that this is what they believe. They do not think about the care of children because so many of them are raised not to think. They only have to do themselves. Girls are raised to be caretakers and are socialized to be a mom and take care of people. They are not. So I do believe that these are some normal answers. But if these people want to shift towards actually having some kids, they need to start thinking about the caretaking part because otherwise women are going to continue to say peace out or get someone else to do it. But for me, as a mother who realizes how much work goes into raising children, I am firmly on team let the birth rate plummet to hell because too many of these people don't actively participate in the families that they create. They can drop some sperm and maybe snap some photos and get some accolades if they change 2 diapers. Like, yay, I did it. I get a cookie. But they're not actually fully hands-on and nobody pushes them to be. No one shames them into being actual parents to the kids that they help create. Let's look at some of these comments. MWARW says, I mean, it checks out. I often feel like societal expectations are about having kids, not necessarily raising kids, except if you're the mother. Except if you're the mother. Warsay says, yep, they are and always have been. This idea of having kids if and only if you have a heartfelt desire to care for children is very new. And people who genuinely have that desire are, I think, pretty uncommon. For most people, or at least most first world men, children look like a massive burden, not a pleasure. Historically, people had kids for reasons like there wasn't enough contraception, so sex would inevitably result in children. They needed free labor for the farm or shop. They were under social pressure to pass along their family name. Religion told them they ought to have children. There was no social safety net for the elderly besides being cared for by extended family. So if you didn't have kids to care for you, you'd end up on the street one day or burdening your siblings, nieces, or nephews. Your community or nation needed your children as future laborers or soldiers. It's patriotic. It's patriotic to pop out those babies, pop out those babies, pop out those babies. All right. It says a bunch of these reasons don't really exist in more modern wealthy nations, hence the plummeting birth rate. Yes. And I think that we can work on getting it lower. Like, let's make it plummet to hell, like fall off a cliff. All right, hence the plummeting birth rate and the expectations of having children for the sake of personal pleasure. Is it personal pleasure, though? Like, answer that question for the moms out there. Is it personal pleasure to have children? I would not use pleasure to describe, no. Pleasure? Anyways, go ahead and answer that question. This is a good point. Fakishi says also half the kids would die before they hit adulthood. So people had to keep having kids to replace the ones that died. Like you get another pet once the other pet dies. But the thing is, these are children. So now that we're keeping them alive longer, you don't need to have 5 to keep 2. You can just have 2 to keep 2. So we don't have to have a bunch of kids these days. You can just pop out 2 of them and then For the most part, they'll be perfect. They'll be cool. Not always perfectly fine, but mostly cool. Season Positive says they want children like children want pets. I would say that that is true. Face with the View says, and not to be sexist, but especially coming from men. This person at the bottom says, I keep hearing they want to have wives and children, but they don't want to be husbands and fathers. This fits. Yes, because they will drop the baby batter. They will do the to make the babies and all that. They got that. But the whole participating, making phone calls to set up appointments and taking them to and picking them up for school, all that, a lot of that's going to fall on the mom. So let's be real about it. When they're answering these questions, it's from the stance of they don't really have to do too much. It's not a big investment. It's the and then they get to take some pictures and all that. They can pop in, pop out at some holidays, and they don't have to do much. I wanted to get to Trilobite. Trilobite says, dated a guy once who was child-free, but didn't want to get a vasectomy because if his brother didn't have kids, it would be on him to carry on the family name, even though he had zero interest in raising children. Like, B word, you ain't some kind of duke. You live in Bum F, Ohio. Your family name is irrelevant. It wasn't a particularly rare or unique name either. Like, it wasn't as common as Miller or Smith, but there were certainly other people with the same last name in our country. I pointed out to him that the name would continue with them even if he didn't have kids, and he said it wasn't the same. Obviously, we didn't last long. Idiot. So I needed to highlight that part where she said, like, B word, you ain't some kind of duke. You live in Bum F, Ohio. Your name is irrelevant. Please humble these people because they need it sometime. And we needed to read that. Like Scar Professional says, you ain't some kind of duke. I'm crying, man, laughing my butt off. And this person at the bottom says, Duke of Bum F, Ohio. I cannot read any further. This is hilarious. I'm definitely going to take that with me through the day, and I hope that that definitely made you smile. And as a bonus, I have some audacity to share with y'all. Absolutely no correlation between this post and what I'm about to show you. This man named Keith says, if you're a single woman in your 30s or over, you really can't afford to reject people who are genuinely interested in you. Cut the stuff. Lower your self-absorbed high standards. At that point, even low men are losing in. So if you're a single woman in your 30s, lower your high standards. You are self-absorbed. And that's Keith. Naomi says, I immediately distrust anyone who uses high value, low value to describe people. Katie says, I never thought being gay was a choice until I saw him. And Katie says, I'm saying a horrible joke. I know sexuality isn't a choice, but when you see Keith, you'll know why Katie said that. Because this is Keith. How dare you have this extra chin there? Now, this shadow is here, but it's not covering anything. He can grow a beard, but that's not covering the fact that his neck and his chin are basically one line. He has a check. He does not have a chin and a neck. He has a check. And this is the reason why he wants women to lower their standards, because he's out here looking like this. He's out here looking like a thumb that has been reconfigured. He definitely looks like a thumb. You know, he has a receding hairline. You know that he has some man boobs. And like All Feminists United says, Keith has feelings about women in their 30s. Keith is why we have to cover our drinks in public. Keith needs women to really lower their standards to the point where they don't see, they don't smell anything. We don't touch anything, because when you touch, you won't feel any kind of muscle tone at all. It's just going to be all soft, kind of, probably smelly, probably like hot dog water. Anyways, join the conversation. Let me know what you think about all this. Let me know what you think about the bonus in Keith. Yes, Keith. The audacity is just way too high. Join the conversation, like, comment, and share.